Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Putnam Valley. This is the Nine Show. Hey, this is the Nine Show. Recorded live in room 116. This is the Nine. This is the Nine Show. The Nine Show.
Hi everybody, what's going on? I'm Tristan Calvente, and this week we have a very special episode of The Ninth Show. We wanted to take the time to talk about the upcoming school budget and the importance of voting. So without further ado, let's go to Roger Ramo, who spoke to Joe Figarella about these two crucial topics.
Hi, I'm Roger Ramo, and I'm here right now with Miss Jill Figarella, business official for the Putnam Valley School District. So, Jill, could you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I've been the business official in the district for the last 7 years. And primarily my job is to develop a school budget for the district.
That's great. That sounds like a really complicated job. So what exactly is the budget and why is it important?
So the school district has to develop a budget in order to know what its limits are for spending. And we make that spending happens during our fiscal year. Our fiscal year runs from July 1st through June 30th every year. And unlike our own budgets where, you know, we tend to go over or spend a little more money when we want to or we feel like it, that's not something we can do with a school budget. It has to stay within those limits during that time period.
Who would exactly determine that budget in any given year?
Well, it starts with myself and the superintendent, and we get together with all of our department heads and all of the building principals to find out what their needs are. And then after putting the information together, we share that with the Board of Education. And ultimately, the Board of Education is who decides whether the budget will be adopted. And as the board, they are volunteers for the school district, so it is a big commitment from our board to not only do the budget, they make a lot of decisions all year, obviously, but that is one of the, obviously the main decisions that's made by the board, and that's who determines what the budget's going to be before we put it up for a vote.
So now since you were talking about that, like where exactly does that money come from that supports the budget?
There are a number of places that the revenue comes from that supports the budget. The main source, and unfortunately because our state aid isn't what we would like it to be, it's only about 22% of what we get for revenue. The main source of the revenue for our budget is from taxpayers. It's from your parents, it's from property owners, not just students or families that attend the district, but all property owners in the school district. And then there are some other smaller revenue sources that add to that, but not as significant. Those are the two main sources.
I see. So where exactly would that money go, though?
So just to give you an idea, the money, it goes to all of our programs. We have about 41% of it going towards classroom instruction. We have about 22.8% going towards employee benefits. And what I mean by that is we pay out our payroll, but there are benefits associated with that. We have like pension plans that the teachers and the staff members have. There are taxes that have to be paid and whatnot. So those types of benefits. About 8% goes to our general administrative support. That would be like your building principals, all your administrators, the staff that helps to staff the buildings. About 6% goes towards transportation. That would be for your home to school transportation, right, athletic transportation, that kind of thing. 4.9% goes to support services. Those are like your guidance counselors, your psychologists, therapists, things like that. And about 5% goes towards operations and maintenance. So that's your custodial crew, your groundskeepers, everything that it takes to take care of all the buildings we have on campuses. Debt service, so that's an interesting one. That is like all of the money that we have to pay for principal and interest towards like construction projects. that have happened over the last 30 years, because that's how far out it gets stretched.
Right.
It's like a mortgage on your house. And media and tech support, so we only see about 3% go towards that, but that's really a big part of what you guys have been using in the last couple of, this last year specifically,
Definitely.
And about 2% or 2.4% go towards co-curricular and athletic activities.
Wow. Stuff like that. I mean, all this where the money, where it's going, like I wouldn't even know that myself. And I think having good insight on this is almost beneficial to the school and people altogether,
Right.
especially to the students, to the staff, everything. So I think having a really good grasp upon this stuff is almost really key to really like getting.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really is an interesting job to really be managing all this stuff, and like it's really important. Yeah. So. And with that being said, people talk about state aid, and like all the time. So what exactly is that, and how much do we get? How much do we get of it, and why?
Okay, so the state aid, like I mentioned earlier, it is part of our revenues, and it does help support the budget. It's only about 22%, and for us, that's about $11.6 million. Our total budget is $53 million. So 11.6 of that will come from the state. And we get it for different reasons. We get it on our transportation, we get it for educational, like a per student allowance. And it's really based on what our wealth is in the town. So in other words, our income levels. So the state has all of that information on every family that lives in Putnam Valley.
Wow.
And they also base it on assessed values. So everybody's home is worth a different amount of money. So those assessments, combined with like what they consider the wealth ratio, the incomes, will determine what portion of state aid the district gets. So the state will dole out state aid to 700 different districts across the state, and we get 22% of the of our budget to support our budget. So
That's actually insane.
it's a lot of
whole lot of money,
information.
a lot of money and information altogether. And now, exactly how would like taxes be determined when considering
Right. So I wrote a little slide about that too. And so we have what we call the tax cap, okay? And understanding the tax cap is not very easy. So I'm going to try to simplify it as much as I can.
Yeah.
But taxes are determined by using this formula, okay? So we take our prior year's tax levy, which is the $38 million number you see at the top, and that was what our taxes were last year. That went towards that $53 million budget,
Right.
Okay, and then we're allowed to grow that a little bit. So the growth factor that the state gives us this year was like 1.008%, right? So that's an allowable growth factor for assessed values. So they
Right.
feel like that's how much values have increased. And they let us raise the taxes by $30,000 because that's what that percentage works out to be. And then we have our CPI. CPI stands for Consumer Price Index. So that would be equivalent to what the cost of living has gone up by, right? So 1.23% is what they're allowing us to increase. Now, don't forget, there's all these items in the budget that are increasing, so that's what they're saying that allowance should be, only 1.23%. It's not a lot of money.
Understandable.
Yeah, so $450,000 to increase salaries and all the payments that we have going out to like vendors and for benefits and things. That's not a lot of money, but we get to add that amount. And then we have a number there that's called the capital tax levy, and that represents what our cost for principal and interest is on our construction projects, not the current one that's going on,
Right.
but all of those projects, like I said, over the 30 years.
Over the 30 years.
Right, so
Jeez.
it's still, depreciating, going down in value, but we still have to pay what we owe.
Right.
And then we get a portion of building aid, because you asked about state aid,
Yeah.
towards that. So that's the net of that number, 284,000, leaving us a value, a tax cap of 2.1% increase over last year, or $38,780,000. The district is choosing not to go to the full amount and trying to keep that as low as possible for taxpayers. So we're staying just under that at 38,755,967. So that's how we come up with the amount of taxes that we're allowed to charge, and that gets distributed over all of the homeowners in the town.
Right. Well, geez, taxes, I know. From what I've heard, it's a really touchy subject.
It is.
And of course, I wouldn't know much about it at this time. And with that being said, what exactly happens if the budget doesn't pass?
That is also a touchy subject.
Yeah.
So
Jeez.
the budget doesn't pass. We find ourselves in quite a quandary, but the Board of Education then, who determined the budget, gets to decide if they are going to put that same budget back up for a vote, if they're going to adopt what they call a contingent budget, or they could cut items from the budget that they originally proposed and say, this is what it's going to be, and we're going to put it back up for a vote. So a second vote, though, if that budget doesn't pass, whether they put up the same one or something slightly different, would cause them to have to do a contingent budget.
Right.
A contingent budget means that we would have to revert back to our original tax levy of last year. So there's a big difference between the bottom number and the top number, right?
Yeah.
$745,000. So that number would mean cutting programs, cutting teachers, possibly athletic programs, possibly clubs and activities, things that are the least restrictive to students, but yet we have to keep health and safety in mind. We have to keep core subjects in mind. So you can just imagine $745,000. Having to cut that means cutting things that are, very important to students, very important to staff.
Right.
And it's not a good place to be in.
I can
Unfortunately, as a school district business official and the role of the Board of Education, we're not allowed to tell people how they should vote, yet you can see how important it is to try and help get the budget passed without having to go to this. But technically, I have to stay neutral because I have to just make sure that I'm putting out a responsible budget,
Right.
and that people are voting on whether they think it should be passed or not. It shouldn't be something that I tell them. But I'm trying to help you understand what the difference is between going contingent and going for a budget that is put out there that is already being told. You're being told it's fiscally responsible.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, when I think about that, especially all our classes and especially the classes we actually want to take,
Right.
and the things we are interested in as students, as staff, whatever it is, sports even, that too. I mean, if that was taken away, that would be pretty detrimental to the school as a whole,
Right.
any school as a whole. And I think having that, having a budget for this kind of stuff, or this stuff in general, is extremely important. Or not just that, but just, I don't know how to say it, but it really is important.
But people need to understand that there are ramifications of just assuming that they think their taxes might be too high. There are ways to combat high taxes.
Right.
If you think your home is overassessed, you can go to your assessor and say, I don't think my home is valued at the right amount, and maybe they would get a reduction. Right. I mean, these are all things to look at instead of just, going at it from the standpoint of just reducing the amount of the budget, because you're taking away from possibly
people,
what the students are what is helping those students be successful down the road, and what the future of our students are. So I think that's really highly important.
Yeah, I could tell it's very controversial. Controversial subjects altogether. And now, how exactly could you register to vote? Right.
So it's important for students to know that once they've reached the age of 18, they are eligible to vote. And this year, our deadline for registering to vote would be May 13th. And I think some students, if they already drive, they may be automatically registered, but I would encourage those eligible to vote to check to make sure that they are before the date comes.
Right.
because it is important to get out there and voice your opinion about something that you can say something about. And it's you're not only registering to vote in a school budget, you're also you're registering to vote for other things in society, right? When you
Right.
register to vote. So I think it's highly important that you do that.
Which makes sense.
So the school budget vote is going to be held every year on the third Tuesday in May. And this year it's on May 18th.
Right.
It's at our elementary school. It's held between the hours of 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. So it gives time before school, maybe not for students, but definitely after school and up till 9 p.m. So
Yeah, that's a good time.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
time to get there. Even if you have a sport or an activity that you're involved in, you can still get there. Now, absentee ballots are available for students too. I don't know how useful that is for a student, but there are students who are remote.
Virtual.
Yep, so virtual learning students may be interested in that, and if they are, they have to request an absentee ballot by May 11th.
May 11th.
Yep, and enough, so it gives the district clerk enough time to get that absentee ballot to them, and they can get it returned to us.
Right.
And it does have to be returned to us by May 18th at 5 p.m. So that it counts. Otherwise, it won't count. And that's really important. And all of that information is on our website. All of the budget information, the financial information on the right-hand side of our screen on our website, www.pvcsd.org.
Yes.
There's a button on the right-hand side, and it leads you to all of the budget information.
Right.
Right. So anyone can look up the voter information or the facts about the money.
Huh.
There are 2 candidates up for the Board of Education, so their term lasts 3 years, and then it has to be renewed. So this year we have 2 people. One person is stepping down, Mr. Cohen, who's been on our board for over 30 years.
Wow.
Is stepping we're very thankful for his service. He is stepping down this year, and there is a candidate running who's new. I believe her name is Helen Horvitz. And then we have Miss Parmley, Barbara Parmley. She is on the board currently, and she will be rerunning for her spot again. So that is an addition on the ballot, you'll see.
Right. That's a wrap, guys. All the information you guys might need is at pvcsd.org, and that includes the absentee ballot or, well, any other information. The official voting date will be Tuesday, May 18th at the elementary school. And with that being said, Ms. Figarella, thank you for coming on the show. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed speaking with you about the budget, and maybe we can do topics on other things coming, in the future. And
Definitely.
Again, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Wow, how informative. Great job, Roger. That's it for the 9 show. I'm Trisha Calvente. Have a great day, everyone.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Putnam Valley. This is the 9 show. Hey, this is the 9 show. Recorded live in room 116. This is the 9. This is the 9 show. The 9 show.